There are times in a man's life when he simply has to go on the internet and get extraordinarily pissed off. Today is one such day of thus for me. The W3C has done something so egregious, so ridiculous, so infuriating that I had to scrap what I was originally going to do today, which was to review a computer, specifically this computer from System 76, which is the machine I record this show on. It's the Wild Dog. They're a sponsor of this show. It is absolutely delightful, but I'm not going to review it today, even though it is one of my favorite machines. Look at it spinning right there. It's just delightful. I'm not going to review that today. I'm not going to do that because I have to talk about the W3C. I have to talk about the fact that the World Wide Web Consortium, the standards body, the organization that is helmed and tasked with creating the standards to promote a free and open and democratized web across the world, has decided they're going to embrace DRM as a standard. That absolutely blows my mind. That causes me to have serious mental issues. This is a mental health problem for me right now. If I don't spend the next hour yelling at the W3C, I am going to go insane. Let's start at the beginning. So, the web. The web really is the broad name that we give to using a web browser to view an interconnected set of servers that are serving us hypertext markup language pages. That's what the web is. When you load up whatever browser, from NCSA, Mosaic, and Netscape and everything else to Chrome or Internet Explorer or Firefox, you are loading up a web browser. You are going to go view the web. You're going to view web content. And what makes that content so great, what makes that content crazy important to all of us, is how transparent and open it is. That's what made it successful. Anyone can post a web page. Anyone can view a web page. Yeah, some websites can implement security systems to access content or administrative functions and the like. But the content, once you get to it, once you get to that content, whether it's behind a paywall or a login screen or just flatly available for everyone, which is most content, you can do what you want with it. You can copy the text off the page. If you see an image, you can right-click Save As, put that on your desktop, and share it out on Twitter. You can take a screenshot. You can print it off. You can say, I like this web page. This web page provides me with interesting content. File, print, and print it out on a printer if you are the kind of person who likes to print things out on a printer. You can do what you want with it because it's a free platform. And not by free do I mean cost. I mean free as in people can just use it and do what they want with that content. It's a glorious thing, and it has allowed so much in the world. It has empowered people all over the world to have a voice, to get their message out there, and to consume information that like never before in human history. It is amazing. And yet, the W3C has decided that it's okay to standardize locking it down. Now, specifically, what have they done here? I want to walk you through exactly this. Here we go. They have proposed this specification. It's called encrypted media extensions. And I talked about this on an episode of this show some months back. And it was just a proposal at that point. They have since voted, and they've decided to adopt this proposal. So let's look at exactly what this is. So let's read the abstract here. This proposal extends the HTML media element, providing APIs to control playback of encrypted content. That's really the basis here. The idea of encrypted media extensions is fairly simple. They want to have a standard that they will hope that all modern web browsers will adopt. And that standard will allow for individual organizations and companies to wrap up DRM solutions and content inside encrypted media extensions. Basically, what they're saying is, here is the way to have encrypted content that is DRM'd so that only the people you want to be able to view them can view that content. Now, it's very, very high level. In theory, the common assumption is that this will be applied to video. And the big proponents of this, in fact, if you go back to the document itself, you'll notice that it has a few editors. Those editors, specifically Google, Microsoft, and Netflix. Those are the people that wrote this document. Encrypted Media Extensions, the proposal, was written by Google, Microsoft, and Netflix and put to the W3C. I don't know of any other organization that thinks this is a good idea. And I'm going to go through a bunch of the organizations out there that have that have come out rather strongly opposed to this. It appears to me like Google, Microsoft, and Netflix have pressured the W3C into adopting this. That's what it looks like. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe the W3C and Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the knighted by the Queen herself, for the awesomeness that he did in building the initial World Wide Web. Maybe he thinks it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. And we'll come back to Sir Tim in a moment. So who thinks this is a bad idea? Who thinks it's a bad idea to have a standard to encrypt DRM content, DRM'd content, restricted content, all across the internet? Who thinks it's a bad idea? Well, to start with, these guys think it's a bad idea. The Free Software Foundation. In fact, yesterday, July 9th, was literally a day against DRM, and they came out very strongly, obviously, opposed to encrypted media extensions, very strongly in no uncertain terms, and included a call to action to try and convince Netflix to drop DRM at least on their original productions. But that's not surprising, right? The Free Software Foundation, led by the likes of Richard Stallman, is not going to be supportive of anything that's DRM-y in any way. People would think that, oh, it's Richard Stallman. Oh, it's the Free Software Foundation. They're fringe, right? They're the free software zealots. They're religiously minded. So clearly they're going to be against this, even if it's a practical and good idea. That's what a lot of people who would be for EME, which means Microsoft, Google, and Netflix, would say. Well, then there are some others. Others like the Creative Commons. Creative Commons, also a big advocate against digital rights management. In fact, they went so far as to produce a number of blog posts and the like around that. So the Creative Commons organization. But again, Creative Commons, right? Those guys are a bunch of hippie dippies out there promoting this free content, free culture, free love. So we're just going to disregard them, right? Well, how about the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF? Well, they're a little less hippy dippy. They're coming out pretty hardcore. This is a post. I've read a post from Cory Doctorow entitled "Amid Unprecedented Controversy, W3C Greenlights DRM for the Web." And he writes, earlier today, the World Wide Web Consortium standards body publicly announced its intention to publish encrypted media extensions, a DRM standard for web video. It goes beyond that, but with no safeguards whatsoever for accessibility, security research, or competition, despite an unprecedented internal controversy among its staff and members over the issue. That's pretty intense. So Cory Doctorow, science fiction author, but also a free software, free culture advocate, and the EFF coming down hard in no uncertain terms, in intense terms, with pictures. Look at these pictures. These are not happy pictures. These are angry pictures against the DRM, and that is being supported by the W3C. But again, these are the types of organizations that are active politically in pushing freedom and free software and the like. So what about some other ones? Well, here's LibreOffice, the Document Foundation. The organization that literally just develops an office suite. They're coming out. They're supporting the Day Against DRM and, well, not fans. Here's Verge. Go over to theverge.com. And they read an article from Jacob Kastranakis. A DRM standard has been approved for the web, and security researchers are worried. This will break people, companies, and projects. This is not little statements here, and this is not from necessarily organizations that are typically always politically minded. And of course, I'm one of my favorites. Over on Boing Boing, Cory Doctorow writes an open letter on DRM to the inventor of the web from the inventor of net neutrality. Tim Wu, the Columbia University law professor and antitrust competition expert who coined the term net neutrality, has published an open letter to Tim Berners-Lee, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the web and director of the World Wide Web Consortium. Wu wrote to Tim Berners-Lee to thank him for his yeoman duty in fighting for net neutrality, a live issue that has acquired new and regrettable urgency thanks to blah, 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 blah. But Wu goes on to draw a connection between the problems of DRM and the problems of network discrimination. DRM is wrapped up in a layer of legal entanglements, notably Section 1201 of America's Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which allows similar kinds of anti-competitive and ugly practices that make net neutrality so important. And then Tim goes on to write a full letter to Tim Wu to Tim Berners-Lee. So Tim writes Tim and basically just kind of lets him have it. Tells him straight up, hey, you did a good job. You did a good job, Sir Tim. You accomplished a lot. Don't do this. This is not good. So having DRM as a standard in the web itself, as a standard, this is not an implementation. This is not Internet Explorer is adding in one little implementation of a DRM protocol or something like that. This is a standard, like HTML itself. This is a standard here. So what does that mean? What are we realistically looking at? Okay. To start with, we need to look at why this is a bad thing, right? We need to look at what the real impact here is. Why would a company want DRM? Why would Google, Netflix, and Microsoft want widespread adoption of DRM across all modern browsers? What would they get out of that? And Cory Doctorow rightly pointed out the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Now, the interesting thing there is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act makes it so it is a crime, a federal crime, to break DRM. Any DRM. If I literally right now write the word fart down in a text editor and find a way to encrypt that in digital rights management, in using the EME, for example, and put it up on my website, and no one can read it. No one can read that word because it's all encrypted. If you break the DRM in order to read my version of the writing of the word fart, you have committed a federal crime. And I can sue you from here to kingdom come, and I will win. That is horrifying. That means that if I produce a piece of content, if anyone, any company, any individual, any organization produces a piece of content right now, regardless of their copyright claim to it, and wraps it in DRM, you cannot break it. even for fair use. If you decide you would like to take a video and you have fair use rights to view it on your TV for personal viewing, if it is necessary to break the DRM for you to accomplish that, you will have committed a crime. You are a criminal. That's where this starts to get scary. Because if companies are unable to effectively control copyright law in order to exert their control over pieces of content that they want control over, all they need to do is wrap it in DRM. And you lose pretty much all of your rights over that content. If you buy a song, if you buy an album, and you download it to your local machine, and you have the right to listen to that album on multiple devices, on different computers, on your PDA. Well, no one has PDAs anymore. On your cell phone or your tablet. But in order to do that, because of whatever operating system you're running, or because the original supplier of it is no longer in business, and therefore your DRM'd content cannot authenticate against their servers. In order to view it, you have to break that DRM. You are, again, a criminal. DRM has never not been broken. And I want to make this very clear. There is no implementation of DRM that is unable to be cracked. It is not possible. It simply is not. And I can prove that by asking you, point to me the one instance where DRM, where something that's been DRM'd, where a song has been wrapped in some form of DRM encryption, and it has not ever been cracked. And it doesn't exist. At least nothing that's, gotten any widespread distribution where enough eyeballs on it. Enough eyeballs on it, it's going to get cracked. Which means completely flat out that DRM doesn't work for protecting content. It does not. This is not a moral issue. This is not a philosophical issue. I'm not sitting here saying DRM doesn't work because I don't like DRM. And I don't like DRM. But it doesn't work from a practical issue. I used to be a software developer. I used to make software for a living. For probably 4 or 5 years, I made shareware software. And shareware software is software that, has a sort of DRM-ish scheme into it. You pay for a piece of software and you get a code, and you enter that code into your software and it unlocks the full features of it. And I did this. This was many years back. Some of my software was very popular, and it got cracked, and people provided, the DRM codes for it, and the software got pirated. Some of the software I made was not popular. Not many users, not many sales, wasn't a big financial success for me. All of those also got cracked. Never have I ever made a piece of software where the copy protection scheme wasn't quickly subverted somehow. Quickly, usually in multiple ways. And it was very easy for someone to pirate it. Never did it withstand the test of time. Never did it withstand the test of a month or two. It just never did. It's simply impossible. Even the music companies that provide you with a music streaming service, or music download services, many of them have become just given up on DRM and altogether and said, okay, it's just DRM free. Like Amazon, you can get DRM free MP3s and the like, because it doesn't work. They may want it to work. They may hope that it worked. They may say, hey, I have a right to my content, therefore I'm going to wrap it in DRM and encryption, protect it because it's mine, damn it. I understand that feeling, but it doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work. It is impossible for it to work. And if you want to disagree with me on that, I would say before you can open your mouth and disagree with me, prove it. Show me the example where something kind of popular works. where the DRM has worked, where it's continued to work, where that DRM over the course of years has never been broken. Because if you can't show that, then there is no point to implementing DRM as a standard across the web unless there is an ulterior motive. There truly isn't. It's simple logic. So, am I saying the W3C is some sort of evil, awful organization that is out for world domination via the Digital Millennium Copyright Act? No, I'm not. They're a standards body, but they are people, and they do have to get their funding from somewhere, and they get their funding. Well, I'll let you draw the connections there, but this EME, the encrypted media extensions, was written by Google, Microsoft, and Netflix. 3 companies that have a vested interest in seeing their ability to enforce the Digital Millennium Copyright Act on content as whenever they wish. They have that interest financially. They wrote this spec, and they have very deep pockets. So it is concerning to me when I see a standards body doing what appears to me to be caving into pressure. I don't know if that pressure is monetary. That would be my guess. I don't know if that pressure was some other outside influence. But it looks like they're caving to pressure. And that is deeply saddening and troubling. Now, where does this go? Where do we go from here? If the W3C completely ratifies this standard, and we have a few days left. So what's happened is they voted on it. And my understanding is that there was a 2-week from the vote, and I could be a little bit off on these numbers, for people to appeal to it. To appeal that vote. So what happens now? Well, assuming that, they don't change their mind, it becomes a standard. It then becomes up to the individual browsers to implement EME or not, to adhere to that standard or not. Now, what happens if the major browsers adhere to that standard? My guess is they will. And for good reason. If you are Firefox or Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, and you want to be the browser that people use, you want to make the 2 number 1 destination websites that you're going to go to work well. Netflix and the various Google properties, YouTube, all the various Google services, Google Play Music, all these things. So the odds of all the major browsers fully embracing the encrypted media specification is high, extremely high. We need to stop them from doing that. We need to roll back whatever implementation they've already done. And this is critical, because what happens once they've all done so? Once they've all adhered fully to that specification, and that specification has been ratified as a standard across the web, that means that the majority of web browsing users will now have it. That means that the companies that want to have DRM function properly, as in do what they want it to do across a large number of browsers, is going to be high, which means that the total usage of DRM across the web is going to skyrocket. That's a big statement. How do I know that? Because whenever something becomes more doable, whenever something becomes easier, more accessible, more financially viable, it becomes more common. For example, when automobiles were first invented, they were a pain in the ass to drive. They had funky lever systems. They were awful. Once they became easier to drive, steering wheels and whatnot, they took off like a rocket. They become commonplace. People want them. When there is a platform that is hard to develop for, like let's say Android, right? Android. When it first comes out, it had some dev tools, but not a ton. Once great dev tools were available for them, more people were building applications for it. You make it easier. You make it more accessible. You give the people who are going to potentially utilize whatever tool that is a assurance that that tool is going to be working for a while. You make it a standard. You make it so that it's supported on whatever they want it supported on, and they're going to use it more. That's how things work. That's always how they work. Across every discipline, across every media, across every bit of technology, that's how it works. So you take DRM, you standardize on how it's going to work across all of the major browsers. So you can hit 90+% of the market share of people browsing the web. And people will use it like gangbusters. And by people, I mean the companies that want things to be encrypted in DRM. If they think it's going to be a good idea, and now they can see it as a standard that all the browsers that they're testing on regularly anyway support, they're going to do it. So that means that we're going to quickly have a web that has a lot more DRM'd content in it than it currently does today. Now, why is that a bad thing? Don't people want to protect themselves, right? People want to protect their content, right? We've already established protecting content by DRM doesn't work, which means there's going to be a lot of people getting sued. That's really what it means. It means that you and me are going to have access to a lot less content. And if we do decide to circumvent DRM to fairly use content that we have legal rights to utilize, we are opening ourselves to significant legal liability. And that is damned scary to me. Damned scary. That is handing over control of information and content to people that should not have that control. We should have that control. And the W3C, by putting this standard in place, is actively working to take that control away from us. That is all that this accomplishes. No, that's not true. It accomplishes a few other things as well. Let me load up. Let me see what I've got here. Here it is. I've got. There was an individual over on Twitter. I know, right? Twitter is the end all be all. Oh, I don't have the picture up here. They put together this great picture. Let me see if he's got it here. Here it is. This guy over on Twitter took one of the statements from the W3C that talked about video, right? How good it is to have video. And he replaced the word video with ebooks. And instead of hundreds of millions of people want to watch videos on the web, and most video companies stipulate that videos must be encrypted if it's legally available online. And he replaced it with ebooks. I'm like, okay, well, maybe they still want it to be encrypted online. Maybe they want those ebooks to be encrypted. And I could see someone making a case for wanting those ebooks encrypted. He did the same thing for images. Well, that's not it. Where I get to give you the right one here. There we go. For images. Hundreds of millions of people want to view images on the web, and most image companies stipulate that images must be encrypted if it's to be legally available online. And this is the problem. The EME does not specify that it needs to be video. It does not. It is for everything. It is for encrypting content web-wide. That is scary, man. That is dystopian, funky future scary stuff. I don't want to sound like an alarmist. This is the first episode I've done like this. I mean, I've yelled and ranted and raved about things before, but they're all things like, oh, the web pages are too big. That's a pain in the ass. They should be smaller, you know? This is an actual threat to free and open communication online. That's what it is. And that's deeply, deeply concerning. And beyond that, assuming that you and me, we just give in and say, okay, fine, it's encrypted. You know what? It's fine. It's encrypted. We'll just roll with it. Fine. What happens to everyone who's using a non-standard platform? If you excuse me. If you're running Haiku OS or various Unix flavor or an older operating system that doesn't get the latest web browser upgrades, well, you're very quickly going to not be able to use the web anymore. Not because a new version of JavaScript comes out and it slowly loses compatibility, not because your web browser doesn't render CSS quite right anymore, but because it's actually encrypted, because you are restricted from using it. Now, I want to show you something here. I want to show you the mission statement of the W3C. The following design principles guide the W3C's work, the web for all. The social value of the web is that it enables human communication, commerce, and opportunity to share knowledge. One of W3C's primary goals is to make these benefits available to all people, whatever their hardware, software, network infrastructure, native language, culture, geographic location, or physical or mental ability. That's their mission statement, basically. And if that's their mission statement, the act of endorsing and standardizing DRM literally is flying in the face of their core mission. All people, whatever their hardware, DRM can limit what you see based on your hardware. Whatever your software, DRM specifically limits you based on what software you're running. Geographic location. You're supposed to be able to use the same web wherever you are in the world. That's the purpose of the W3C. That's part of their mission. DRM can limit what you see based on your geographic location. It can limit what you see based on just about anything. And they are flat out endorsing it. That is terrifying. If I were Sir Tim Berners-Lee, if I were a knighted because I created one of the most open and beautiful platforms for sharing and creating and disseminating and consuming and reading and enjoying information in the history of mankind. And I come out with this, and I basically lock it the hell down and hand the keys over to people who should not have the keys. That is how history would remember me. It doesn't matter what good I did before then. It doesn't matter what amazing things I created. I have now destroyed my reputation. I did something great. I built something beautiful, and I took a poop on it. For all eternity, people will remember that poop. They will remember Sir Tim Berners-Lee's poop. And yeah, he'll get credit for having created the web that he then pooped on. And that's just the truth. There's a lot of examples of that throughout history, of people who did good things, but then screwed up really bad. I don't mean this to be a political discussion, but the great example that comes to my mind in the American side of things is Richard Nixon, President Richard Nixon. I wasn't alive when President Richard Nixon was president, so I really don't have an opinion on President Richard Nixon. But he did stuff. Some people liked what he did, some people didn't like what he did. But what do we remember him for? We remember him for what happened at the end of his presidency. We remember him for Watergate. We remember him for being impeached. That's what we remember Richard Nixon for. What did he do before that? Well, he became president. It doesn't matter. We remember him for what happened at the end. Sir Tim Berners-Lee, maybe this isn't his end. I hope it's not. Seems like a good guy. But he did something terrible. Not something I disagree with, something terrible. And anyone else, sorry, yes, I'm live streaming this right now, and people pointed out that Richard Nixon actually resigned. But yes, but the point still stands. And Sir Tim Berners-Lee has a chance right now to redeem his reputation. He could come out and say, you know what? On second thought, this is a bad idea. Never mind that. Literally, that'll do it. People would laugh at him for a little while. It'll be a little bit of a joke. But it has to be done. Otherwise, 20 years from now, when we look across the web at its insane encrypted expanses of books and movies and images and web content and everything else that's encrypted from here to kingdom come, he's going to get blamed for it. He's the face of the World Wide Web Consortium. Will Microsoft get blamed for it? No. This is a standard from the W3C. Microsoft may have written it. Google may have written it. Netflix may have written it. They're not going to get blamed for it. The individuals who wrote that, and here they are right here. There's David Dorwin of Google, Jerry Smith of Microsoft, Mark Watson of Netflix, and Adrian Bateman of Microsoft. They're the ones who wrote this. Are they going to get blamed for it? No, I don't. Most people won't know who they are. They're going to know who Sir Tim Berners-Lee the Knight is. And they're going to know that he endorsed this. They're going to know that he headed the organization that standardized on this. And this is what he'll be remembered for. This is his legacy. This is his legacy right now. That he literally goes against every freedom-loving organization that we just went through. We just went through a big list of organizations that fight for freedom. And they're all against this. I invited the W3C to be on the show. I sent them a request for quotes, for comments, quite a few, in fact. I nudged them repeatedly on Twitter even. I kept trying to goad them into some sort of dialogue around this. In fact, right now I'm recording this late at night. It's like 10-something p.m. here where I'm at, because I wanted to give them enough time to respond. And they're not. I did get a message, and I was sending them emails all last week. I was tweeting them all last week. I'm like, come on, guys. People are freaked out about this. You need to get out there and talk about this. If you truly in the W3C believe in your hearts that this is a good idea, if you actually believe that, and you're not just being bullied or intimidated or bribed into doing this, come on my show. Go on someone else's show. Make big statements. Do interviews. Go on Charlie Rose. Hell, I don't care. You need to get out there and tell people your message. Otherwise, we're just going to talk about what we think. So I kept trying to get them on the show or to provide a statement, a quote, something. No one got back to me until this last Saturday. I got a very short email from an individual who works within the PR section of the World Wide Web Consortium. I'm not going to read it verbatim because it's a private email, and I didn't tell them I would be publishing their results, but what they were saying. But I'll give you the gist of it. They emailed me, and it was like one sentence long, to let me know that they were emailing me on the weekend. That's not a joke. They literally, after numerous emails, tweets, etc., I got an email from them letting me know that they're responding to my email, and it's on a Saturday. So, that was it. That was all I got. And I'm like, great. Originally I was going to do this show yesterday on July 9th as kind of a special thing because it was the day against DRM that the Free Software Foundation was pushing, and it just seemed like a good thing to do. So I invited them on the show, asked for a quote, got nothing. I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'll push it back to Monday, because they did send me that email reminding me that they were emailing me on friggin' Saturday. So maybe that meant that they could get back to me on Monday. Maybe that was like their subtle way of saying, we want to get back to you, but it's a weekend. It's hard. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you all day on Monday, the whole day. It was 9 p.m. before I sat down in my chair here at my studio to actually sit down and record, because I wanted to give them the whole friggin' day. It was midnight East Coast time before I gave them, before I sat down to do this show. Because of that, they never got back to me. Never. They managed, a few of my followers over on Twitter managed to kind of goad them into getting a little testy and pissy over on Twitter. But that was really here. Let me see if I can show you guys here. So someone went in and did a little GIMP statements to change over their Twitter page to add the word DRM. So their normal statement is, the World Wide Web Consortium develops interoperable technology, specifications, guidelines, etc., to lead the web to its full open potential, or something like that. And he changed it to the word DRM, to its full DRM potential. And then he changed the tweet to be, unfortunately, you cannot access this content with EME extensions disabled in your browser. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. It's cute. He was clearly poking at him, right? I totally approve of that. The W3C responded, guess it's easier to edit facts to fit your bias rather than seeing problems/solutions as complex or ideas differing from yours as valid. That's literally the best reply they've given to anyone, is to be, well, I guess you can just go around doing stuff, making pictures and stuff, being all funny. Like, come on, guys. Seriously? That's what this has devolved into, is a pissing match over on Twitter. So I told him, and I said, I quote, people are clearly passionate about this, would love to interview someone to make sure all perspectives are understood. Are you up for it? That's one of like 30 messages. I swear to God, I've sent them over the past couple of days. Nothing other than that one weird email from Saturday. And I'm looking around. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing Cory Doctorow. Cory Doctorow, the author, was doing the same thing over on Twitter, trying to engage them. And he got no good content from them. Nothing. My God, man. So what do we do? What do we friggin' do? You and me, the people watching this, we're the ones that are going to hurt because of this. And it's not just individuals, it's companies. If I want to start a media production company and I want to respect people and not lock the hell out of things down, this hurts me. If I want to build an operating system that's a non-standard operating system, if I want to build a new operating system, this hurts me, because my operating system will likely not have a web browser with EME on it by default. And if it doesn't have a web browser with EME on it by default right away, it's completely pointless if half the web is all encrypted media extension. This hurts so many people, so many companies, so many organizations. The only people this helps are the people who already are in control of the content. Microsoft, Google, Netflix. It's the only people it helps. God damn it. So we have to do something. We have to speak out. So we have a couple of days. Before they ratify this and it becomes sacrimonious. Not sacrimonious, it's the wrong word. It's sacrosanct, whatever. Official law. Before this becomes a real official standard, everyone needs to contact the W3C. Contact them on Twitter. Do it publicly. Email them. Go to wc3.org and just w3.org and email them nonstop. Let them know this sucks. Let them know why this stinks. Go on Twitter and tweet at them. Not like private tweets, big public tweets that they're tagged in, to tell them how much this hurts, to tell them how much you have lost faith in them. Hit them where it hurts. Hit them in the public image, because if the public image of a standards body is that they are not promoting the well-being of anybody but big, crazy rich companies, well, then their effectiveness as a standards organization is gone. It's gone. But what if they do make it a standard? What if we can't shout loud enough? What if we can't? What if us taking to the streets as basically activists doesn't produce anything? Well, then then we have to turn to the browsers. And I would say that there is one particular browser that should not do this, and that is Firefox. Mozilla, your statement to the world, your mission statement. Hold on, you know what? I'm going to bring it friggin' up. I'm going to go to mozilla.org. Mozilla.org. See if they got a mission statement. Mozilla. By the way, Mozilla, just one Z. They're about being open. Here we go. Our mission is to ensure the internet is a global, here, let you see this, a global public resource, open and accessible to all. An internet that truly puts people first, where individuals can shape their own experience and are empowered, safe, and independent. That is their manifesto. That's their mission. And I believe them that that's what they want to do. I've seen them work over the years. I know that's what they want to do. They need to make sure that there is no EME in all versions of Firefox going forward. And yes, that is going to potentially limit some people from playing Netflix. I know that. And possibly prevent people from viewing other DRM'd content. But sometimes, God damn it, you have to take a stand. Sometimes you have to stand up for what's right, even when it's not terribly comfortable. I'll tell you straight up right now, Mozilla, you take that stand, and I will stand with you. And I think pretty much everyone watching this show will too. I haven't always agreed with everything Mozilla's done. But that would be the right thing to do. That would be the right thing to do. The Free Software Foundation would stand with you. Of that, I am pretty confident. I can't speak for these other organizations, but come on, the EFF, they'd stand with you on that. You know they would. You know they would. And you would gain market share. Weird, yeah. Not having a feature would gain you market share, man. You know it would. There would be growing pains based on it, sure. Fight the right fight. Do the right thing, because you know once EME is a standard in all browsers, it's not going away. It's like when a government passes a law. You don't get rid of that law. Government passes a law that adds a new tax. That law is not going away. That tax is not going anywhere. That tax is going to be fought for by everyone who needs that money, who likes that law. Bureaucracies don't give up power. They don't give up laws. Web browsers, once it's a standard and once it's in the browser and there's pages that depend on it, you can't get rid of it because it's going to break a whole bunch of pages. So you're going to be stuck with it for friggin' ever. So stop it right now. Right now is literally the only time to take this stand. This is it. This is the last time. After this, cat's out of the bag. Genie's out of the bottle. We're screwed. Take a stand, because if that doesn't work, if we can't stop it at the W3C, we got to stop it at the browser level. Google is obviously going to want EME and Chrome. They wrote the damned specification. Microsoft is obviously going to have it in Edge and IE or whatever the hell they call their browser now. They wrote the specification. And Netflix doesn't have a browser. If they did, it would be in that as well. And I kind of understand why it would be, I guess. But if we can't stop it at the W3C, and we can't stop it at least one of the major browsers, then the only option left for someone who wants a free web is to give up on the web. It's just to give up. It's literally to stop and go somewhere else. Maybe we'll just reinvigorate Gopher. I don't friggin' know. But we'll have lost our opportunities here. We'll have lost a great opportunity to continue to expand the web into something even greater than it is right now. We'll have lost that. And that is entirely because of the actions of the W3C. They do not have to listen to a couple of people at Microsoft and Netflix and Google and what they want. They can say, screw you. You don't get to tell us what's standard and what's not. We decide. We're friggin' W3C. So W3C, you know what my message is to you? Man up. Come on. Be a Be the bigger man or girl or whatever. I don't want to offend anyone with that, but you know what I'm talking about. Be brave. Be fearless. Do something right. I don't think you will. I think you're a bunch of pansies that are going to give up. Is that what you want me to tell you? Do you want me to be here every month talking further about how much you've screwed up? Do you want every podcast on the planet doing that? Do you want every tech news journalist ranting and raving for the next decade about how you screwed up everything? Do you really want that? Is that what you want? That's your legacy. Everyone at the W3C right now, everyone working there, everyone working with the W3C, if you don't take a stand on this right now, this is your legacy too. I know for a fact that many of you do not want this. And I will not say why I know that for a fact, because I do not want to get anyone in trouble. But I know that for a fact. Speak up. Speak up loud. And if Tim Berners-Lee and everyone who has voting rights within the W3C won't listen, go friggin' public. And go public loud. I will give you a platform. I'm sure Boing Boing and Cory Doctorow will give you a platform. Go to the Free Software Foundation. Go to the EFF. We will give you platforms. We will let people know what you think. And if enough people do that, this stops now. And the web stays open. And if not, getting even more open than it is right now. Because that needs to happen. Anyway. We've went through a lot of turbulent times on the web. We've all survived ActiveX controls. That was a rough time. We all survived Java applets. That was not a lot of fun. I gotta say, that did not make me happy. We survived Flash. We can survive this if we stop right now it from happening, because this is not something that we can roll back as easily as deleting an ActiveX control or re-implementing a piece of site functionality in a different language other than Flash. This is DRM. This is encrypting our content. Once we go down that rabbit hole, the only way out is if every company that encrypted everything decides to unencrypt it and un-DRM it, which I don't think they're going to do. Convincing 1 million companies is a lot harder than convincing the W3C right now to do the right thing. Anyway, thank you for listening to me vent about this. This is huge. This is a huge thing. I hope that over the coming days we'll have good news. And I truly hope that that happens. I hope that Mozilla takes a stand against this. Hard stand. I hope that, some other browser makers do as well. Smaller browser makers taking a stand against this, that's something. But really, what I want to see is I want to see the W3C come out and say, no, we were wrong. We take it back. Because you know what? There's no harm in being wrong. I'm wrong all the time. Constantly. It's very rare that I'm right, I feel sometimes. That's just how it works, man. Everyone makes mistakes. Admit you made a mistake. Say, my bad, and declare a mulligan. And say, you know what? Forget EME. Forget the encrypted extensions. We're going to focus on, I don't know, cleaning up friggin' CSS. You will win the hearts and minds of web developers everywhere. So that's what you got to do. All right. That's it for this Lunduke hour. Have I talked very, very briefly about, hold on a second. Have I talked at all about these lovely guys over at Pogo Linux who may or may not have anything to do with every angry thing that I am talking about here today? Oh, these guys are fantastic. Run Linux on everything. You know what? They love freedom. They love freedom so much that they put multiple different Linux distributions on all sorts of their servers, storage servers, all sorts of high-end stuff. And they support this show. They support free shows. They support freedom. PogoLinux.com are good guys. Big shout out to my sponsors, System76.com, PogoLinux.com, for letting me be angry on the internet about these sorts of things and for helping to make all this possible. And big shout out to my Patreon supporters for making it possible as well. Now, over the next couple of weeks, it's going to be interesting. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal. This is the biggest deal that's going on in our corner of the little world right now, in my opinion. I have a lot of shows lined up. Reviews of hardware, interviews, and the like. I may bump some of them because this is important to talk about. So if stuff happens, we're going to be talking about it again here. But right now, this is the only show, the only episode I have planned to dedicate on this, at least for a while. So over the rest of the week, tune back in. I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this. I would love, especially if any of you have good ideas on how to right the ship, on how to convince the W3C to do the right thing, on how to convince the browser manufacturers, specifically Mozilla, on how to do the right thing. If you have ideas on that, I want to hear them. Put them in the comments on YouTube, put them on Twitter and tag me so I see them. Put them somewhere. I think we need these ideas out there. And I think we're only going to get there if we all do it publicly and talk publicly about them so that the key players in this all see that this is important, that this is critical. We've been talking a lot in the world about net neutrality lately, and that's important. But in my opinion, this is critical and right now. It is happening right now, and it's a big deal. Anyway, that is all I got for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for all the people tuning in live and hanging out with me despite random router crashes as we were beginning the show. For those of you watching the recorded version, you didn't get to enjoy the router crash of 2017 that took out the live stream. But thank you for all my live stream watchers for hanging out with me and enjoying me. And that's it. That's all I got. I feel better right now. I'm sure by tomorrow I'll be angry again, but that's why I have a show that I can rant in. So I'll talk to you later, everybody.